My Stirling Single, Part 50. Repairing the edge of the boiler wrapper paintwork before I rub down the first coat and respray it entirely. Preparing to paint the tender buffer beam, cleaning the water gauge glass and finding some important accessories in the main workshop. Here is the engine sat on a piece of track on the bench. In the last episode I removed the cab and the platework and put it all in a safe place. I went up to the main workshop and transferred some items from there to here. But that was yesterday. I actually used a different kind of etch primer to repair the paintwork. I'll show you that shortly. I also transferred this can of Phoenix Precision Paints Buffer Beam Red from the main workshop to this one before I realised I already had a can of this stuff on the shelf. Here's a tender buffer beam and I never got round to painting this, so I think it's time to do that shortly. Not in this episode though, I'm just getting some bits and pieces together. These are a pair of lamps. They are Great Western Railway lamps as far as I know. What I'm going to have to do with these to use them on the Great Northern Railway locomotive is modify them, because they need to mount from the rear. I've had these for quite a long time, and it's a simple job to modify them so that they fit onto these lamp brackets. I need to make a special fitting for both of these lamps so that they slide onto the respective brackets. The thickness of these lamp brackets is actually overscale, but it's better to have it that way than make them feeble so they break off. This pack contains the lenses that need sticking into the lamps. I need to make 2 front lamps, so we'll use the clear lens. Here I'm reading the instructions which clearly say do not use cyano-based adhesive to fix lenses. I think it would possibly attack the reflective surface. These used to be made by someone called J.C. Tipton, but I don't think he makes them anymore. Although they still are available, I was looking online this morning. Let's have a look at the paintwork. The paint on this boiler shell was only really the first coat, and I did experiment with it in a previous episode. Unfortunately, removing and refitting the cab has damaged the edge of the paint and now it needs repairing. It is all in the preparation. I'm rubbing this down to remove the edges so the edges feather into the metal. Then once I've painted this area first of all with etch primer followed by Great Northern Railway green, the idea is to make it look like the paint has never been repaired. When I was doing this job I should have gone up to the workshop and brought the other kind of etch primer down, which is acrylic, but I didn't. I found this in the cupboard in my smaller workshop. I sprayed some of it into an aerosol cap and applied it to the damaged area of the paintwork on the boiler wrapper. This unfortunately is not acrylic paint, and it started to react with the original paint on the wrapper. By the way, I did do it this way knowing full well what was going to happen, because this is after all a tutorial. Here's the paint I should have used. I buy this from a company called Autopaint Northern, but unfortunately they do not post out. You have to pick it up in person. That's not a problem for me. It's a 100-mile round trip, but I normally visit my daughter at the same time. This is what I'm using for the top coat, Phoenix Precision Paints Great Northern Railway Loco Green. This is a synthetic enamel, and as it says on the tin, store upside down. I really had to do a bit of soul searching with this engine. What do I need it to be? I don't really want to paint this tender. It's lovely as it is. I think I want my Stirling Single to look like a Victorian Christmas present. It's not a new engine, it's been steamed quite a few times and run on a track. I've just been doing some routine work on it, fitting injectors, replumbing the tender, etc, etc, etc. Oh yes, I'm painting the smoke box and cylinders and also the boiler barrel. The clip on screen at the moment shows the plumbing at the tender end underneath. Originally, I fitted this type of silicone rubber tubing which I use a lot between the tender and the engine, but the walls of the tubing are far too thick. I need to obtain some thinner walled silicone rubber tubing. I know where to get it from. I was pretty sure that over the years I'd lost the original handles that came with these injector water valves. And in this clip I'm fitting a 1/8 of an inch diameter twist drill just to verify the size of the handle material, because I misplaced the original handles. But then, as if by magic, yesterday I found them in the main workshop. I had actually put them in a safe place. Fitting these should be simple. With larger injector water valve handles, I would drill the fitting and put a bolt through or a pin. But what I'm going to do with this pair is make sure that both of the valves are in the right position Then I'm going to use some Loctite 603 retainer to retain them in place. Some viewers may be thinking, well, that's a stupid idea. What happens if ever you want to remove the valves? Well, the answer to that's simple if you think about it. If ever I wanted to remove the water valves, it would only be if they had become unserviceable. I would simply cut the handles using a rotary cutter in my Proxxon motor tool, pretty much like I showed in the last episode, when I chopped up the water valve that was being difficult. I would just fit 2 new valves, which of course come complete with handles. Every workshop should have some of these. They are very useful for a variety of jobs. It's a pipe cleaner. And one job they are really good at doing is cleaning water gauges when they're furred up like this one is. Quite a while ago, when I performed a steam test on this engine, I left the water in the boiler all through the summer. Obviously I drained out the water when it got to winter, just in case it froze. And the lime scale in the water is a bit excessive, and I'm going to do something about that. But for the moment I'm only concerned with the mess in the water gauge. I wet the pipe cleaner and pushed it into the glass tube, and it did not remove the lime scale. This is obviously a much better class of lime scale. I think there's a lot in the boiler. And now, without further ado, it is top tip time. I dipped the pipe cleaner into some of this stuff. I have a bottle of this, it's kettle descaler. Using neat kettle descaler instead of water immediately removed all traces of the lime scale in the water gauge glass tube. My acid bath is made up of Kilrock K in about an 8:1 ratio with water, and that's 8 waters and 1 Kilrock K, not the other way around. The top cap came out of the water gauge fitting really easily, but it was reluctant to go back in place, and I had to remove one of the injector pipes to allow this to happen. It was in the way of the socket just enough to throw everything out of alignment. And here it is, all back together. That's it for this one. Stay safe, stay healthy. Thanks for watching, and I hope you found it useful. Please take the time to visit my Mainsteam Models website and click on the section of the website that says Video Playlists. And by doing that, you can find other videos that you may like to watch. And by using the playlists, you can actually watch the videos back to back.